Now we're sharing. Okay. So we're going to start out today with Courtney sharing some of her planning and pacing strategies and then a question dissecting activity. That's really great. And then I will talk about the math specifically and how I kind of structure that in the classroom, a couple different options for you to use. And then even though Emily's not here, I'll share with you guys some of the vocab activity and review games that she has been sharing in the Facebook group for years. We'll kind of talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to Courtney first.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for jumping on. I know a lot of us are heading into a 4-day weekend, possibly 3-day weekend. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to hop on. As the screen says, I live in Durham, North Carolina. I teach at Jordan High School. I have been teaching for 19 years, and as you can see, I do an array of things. My degree is in earth science, though, and I have a master's in science education. I met Chelsea and Emily at the AP reading last year. If you have not been an AP reader, I would highly recommend it. It was a great way to network and get PD, really high quality PD. And it was just a great experience. And I took a lot home with me. All right. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. This session is going to be all about review and getting ready for that AP exam on May 13th, D-Day. All right. So we wanted to start by just talking about a review calendar. And if you've been teaching APES for a while, you probably have one of these that you use every year and tweak it and whatnot. So I just have a few suggestions or maybe new things you could add to it. And if you are new to APES, you are welcome to steal mine and adjust it for yourself. And I have linked this particular study calendar here on this slide for you. Okay, so what I do on my calendar is I offer the kids two different options. And normally I do start at the beginning of April, but I'm starting a little bit later this year. As you can see, this one's actually started yesterday. So there are two options. Throughout the semester, I teach on a semester schedule. So after every test, we fill out this progress monitoring sheet. Um, and I'm going to go more in depth into that here in the next couple of slides, but they will mark down what they have missed on the test and then highlight their top 3 things that they have missed, top 3 subtopics, I should say. And so then in April, my fall kids can bust out those progress monitoring sheets and just focus on those top 3 most missed subunits for each unit. So that is one way that they can use the calendar. Or if they really want to try and cover all the content, I do have it all listed and broken down for each day as well. And I like to highlight the most missed topics as a class on my calendar too, so that if they need something to focus on, every unit has at least 3 or 4 things highlighted that they could focus on. If you don't use AP Classroom, I would highly recommend that you do. Their report system and data system is excellent for figuring out where your kids' gaps are and where they need extra support. So AP Classroom, if you're not using it already. So that kind of leads me into an activity that I've been doing with my kids. As we all know, as science teachers, we beg, borrow, and steal. And I found this really great quick study card activity, actually through my APSI class, and it is awesome. So if you don't know what a quick study card is, I put a picture on this screen for you. So those things that college kids get that are kind of like clip notes. Well, there's an APES version that your kids can do as kind of like a end of semester project or end of, I would definitely wait till the end of the semester or end of class project, because they take all the information that they've learned and there's guiding topics on there and they build out their own quick study card. And a pro tip is I have them, it has to be 4-sided, and I'd have them glue their papers onto a file folder so that's firm and not just a stapled packet. And then the other thing I've discovered that is really helpful is Fiveable has this great cheat sheet that does like a quick overview of each unit. And what I'd recommend for that, the cheat sheet's great, but I think the kids get more out of it if you can tie it into some targeted review questions. And so I discovered this great Post-it note game. I tried on the kids earlier this week and they loved it and they wanted me to share it with you guys. So I have linked the instructions to that game there underneath the cheat sheet as well. So there's a link to the quick study card guidelines, the cheat sheet, and the Post-it note game for you all to use. All right, so this dissecting question activity, this kind of was birthed out of, I don't know if you guys are this way, but I tend to teach the way I learn. So when I started teaching APES, and I'd have to go over the test questions with the kids, I would have to literally like go through each question and figure out like why the answer was wrong. And so I just started doing this myself. And I've noticed that my fall kids, about 20% of them, I have about 20% of kids that don't pass the test more than my spring kids. And so I was like, I got to do something to help boost those scores. And I really kind of found that it came down to reading the question. I really think that's going to be a game changer for them. So I created this dissecting question activity. I always start with this progress monitoring sheet. So we open up the test, they go through it and they tally mark all the subunits that they missed their questions in. And then, like I said, they highlight their top three, just so that they have it all in one sheet, can help them focus their studying down in April. And then for the step 2, I will go through their, Chelsea, you can go to the next slide. I will go through their test and use the data reports and pick their top 5 questions that most kids missed. I used to do 7 questions, but I just found that this activity is kind of intensive. And so 7 was too many. I would start losing them. And so I knocked it down to 5 questions and it was about right. I'd say 3 to 5 questions. You can hold their attention and they get the most out of it. So I wanted to show you this screenshot just so you can get an idea of how I set it up. There on the left, you'll see that is the actual AP exam, AP quiz that I made. And I print it on a half. There's like a setting where you can do 2 pages for 1 page. So I will print it like that. And then I will also print some lined paper on a half sheet. And I have to go old school and like cut it and like tape it to some computer paper and then copy it. Because I want to make sure they have room to do the writing portion. And I don't know if you can also see, I know it's kind of small, but I give them the right answer because the point of this activity is not to try and answer the question right. It's to figure out why the answer was right. And so I go ahead and just give them all the answers because I don't want them to focus on that. Okay, so here's the next step. I will give every kid 2 highlighters and they will get into small groups and they will highlight the keywords in the question and then the keywords in the answers that they think will make it right or wrong, or words that, because we always talk about economic versus environmental issues. And so I'd always want them to highlight, okay, this is an economic issue. And it really helps them see visually what makes that answer wrong. And then the next thing I do is, and this is where I think the most value comes in. It does take time. You got to have time, but I think it's worth it because you're reteaching, you're recovering content, you're getting collaboration in there. It's definitely worth it. But in that lined section, they will go through each answer and tell me or tell the reader why it's wrong or why that answer was right. And then I will have groups come up to the board and they will dissect the question on the board for their classmates. And the feedback I've gotten from the kids has been really good, really helpful. I'm excited to see those kids that I think we'll get a 2. I'm really interested to see if maybe we can get them up to a 3 from using this activity.
Oh, thank you so much, Courtney. I'm excited to try that activity with my kids too. So I'm Chelsea Sterrett. I am a teacher in Salinas, California. I'm actually at an all-girls school, and I've been teaching for 14 years total, math and physics and AP Environmental Science. And then I've been an AP reader for the last 4 years, which is where me and Emily and Courtney all met. My bachelor's degree is in Earth and Environmental Science. But since I got my teaching credential in math and physics first, those are kind of the things that I'm like most passionate about teaching in the context of environmental science. So I get pretty excited about it. And then let me show you first before I introduce my next thing. Um, I think a lot of us get nervous about teaching the math, and hopefully this doesn't make you more nervous, but more motivated. I went through the last couple of years of the educator, like the score reports for educators, where you see the breakdown. If you're a first year teacher, you'll see this when you get your scores in July. You get to see your students' scores, and then like as a class, the answers right for different categories. And they're also broken down by skills. So when you see it broken down by skills in the ones that are quantitative questions, there's 6 multiple choice and then 6 points on the FRQ. And then also for graphs and data analysis, there's 13 related multiple choice questions to graphs or data analysis, and then 2 extra points on the FRQ. So all of those weighted points together end up being about a quarter of the AP exam. So the math content in APES is not super hard. I've been teaching math through calculus now. This isn't obviously like calculus hard math, but it is something that the students need practice with and they need to learn confidence with so that they know where to start when they get to a problem. Another thing about the math that I'd like to say really quick is that even though it can seem scary to some of us, I think feel like a lot of teachers from all I don't know, backgrounds might have some math trauma where they don't like math and they're scared to teach it. But if you can help the kids see math as a tool to solve environmental problems, then aside from just doing a good job on the test, I think it can also kind of empower them to see it as a tool to look for solutions. So hopefully this is a way to do that. So positivestem.org, it's a platform for practicing science. I have a little link here. I sent out yesterday also to those of you who had signed up ahead of time, a little link for getting started if you haven't yet. This is a screenshot of an example problem. So what the program is it's self-grading. So the kids and you see right away what they're getting right or wrong. You get immediate feedback, the student does and the teacher does. And then also all of the values are randomized. So I'd been using this program for my physics students for a couple of years before I thought it would be great for our APE students to have it. And then once I decided to go ahead and make it with a little bit of encouragement from Jack, who's the guy who made Positive Physics and does the whole site. Then I learned a little coding and started waking up really early every morning to work on this. And now there's a whole class that other teachers are using this year, which is really exciting to me. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how I use it. I know some of you that signed up for this have never used it before. Some of you have already been using it, but might learn some new strategies for how to make the most out of it. And then also it's available for physics and chemistry, and then biology and engineering are also just getting off the ground. So something your students might be able to benefit from in other classes as well. Okay, so how to use it. I've had some people say that they just like give their kids the link and tell them like this is a resource you can use if you want to. So that's an option. But I think for you and them to get the most out of it, you want to like use it kind of in class together is really the best way to use it. So one way, if you're just getting started today, would be to think of it as end of the year review. So you could assign a section that students struggled with, or there's a Unit 17 cumulative review that has problems from every section of the, not every single section, but it has things from every unit of APES that they could work on all at once, just all the way through and kind of see where they're at. You could also use it to assign daily warm-ups. And so actually, this is what Courtney has said she's used it for. So you would assign it at the start of class, like as kids come in, you'll give them a skill. So for instance, if you guys are talking about, well, do you have the example that I'm going to do next? Is like power and energy calculations. And you talked about power and energy overall the day before. So then when they come into class the next day, that's the activity that they're going to do. Or this is actually what I do. I make it kind of part of a weekly routine. So in a lot of classes, this is kind of how I like to structure my class when I plan out the week. We'll do lab days, FRQ days, and then we also have positive STEM days. So I added in here just like a sample week. I do a modified block schedule. So I meet with my students Monday, Tuesday, Friday for 45 minutes, and then I have a long block where we try to work in usually labs on that day. But sometimes things are different, special schedules and whatnot. It doesn't always work, but this is kind of a sample of what I normally do like a reading quiz and some content notes on Monday. And then Tuesday, it would be a positive STEM day where I'll show you that real routine where we kind of structure as example, practice, repeat. I'll do an example, then they get to practice a few problems of it and then kind of see how everybody's doing. And then we do like labs and data analysis on Wednesday. And then I love to do FRQs on Fridays. And it doesn't work out that this is what every week looks like, but maybe like every other week is close to this. And we have some other activities on other days. Okay, so in that example practice repeat structure, for the examples, I like to write out with the students like all the steps as I go to explain how to solve a problem. I also have for some of the sections and hopefully more soon, videos of me explaining these that are like embedded in the lesson. So if you don't feel comfortable explaining it, you could have the kids watch a video. But for this one, so these were part of Unit 6, the beginning of Unit 6, which is Unit 11 in positive STEM, because some of the units I just have broken up into more chunks, I guess. So you can see on the top here that I have a power and energy problem. So I would have been like writing this all out as I went to kind of explain my thinking as an example. And then I would have the kids go practice it. And the same thing with the thing below it, which is a unit analysis problem. You can see I'm trying to explain how I would put the units into these places and cross them out. If you wanted to make the guided notes from the problems, I have a little video of how, one way I can do that is you go to the print problem section on the teacher side. So I linked that video of how to do that. But that's what my like example part looks like. So I'm going to switch over actually to now showing you what the site actually looks like and what it would look like as a teacher and as a student. So those problems I was just showing you, if you're a student or a teacher, you have something similar on the dashboard. If you choose the course, environmental science, and then your unit that you're looking for. So we're doing the energy use and non-renewable energy. And then these power to energy calculations we'll do first. And so sometimes there's just a short little lesson, sometimes there's a video. Then they have randomized problems. So this one says a microwave draws 2 kilowatts over 0.59 hours. How much energy does it use? And so then the students will have to complete this little chart and they have to decide what are my units here, hours, and then energy will be in kilowatt hours. And as they go, they can check their answers. So I see like, oh, power was not kilowatt hours. Oh, it's actually kilowatts. And then they can change it and correct it. And then they get light green when it's the corrected answer. And then the bright green shows them that it's all the way done. And they keeps track of their completion and accuracy scores as they go. So I would, again, like after I kind of explained how to do it, they would work on this. And I really do, in fact, encourage them to work on things together in small groups or with partners, because I feel like I hear a lot of good conversations happening when they have to explain it to each other. And let me just show you the next example really quick. So then the next example I was going to show you for these energy cost calculations. So again, like if those were the notes that I had given them, then they could practice it. And then there's a bunch of problems like this. A big skill for solving problems in APES is just learning how to look at the units and then use unit analysis to solve an unknown thing. So taking a word problem and then turning it into a math problem. And that can be really intimidating for a lot of kids, but it's also something that after they do a bunch of these, they get really confident with and they feel like they can do it. They feel like they know what to look for in a problem. And then the scaffolding kind of gives them, like, I think like a backbone of something to start with that they can then take to new problems. So in this problem, it says a family is using 410 kilowatt hours of energy and their power company charges them 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So another thing that we have going on here this year, I didn't make this part, but the whole site has it, is this AI tutor embedded in. And this is kind of helpful. It doesn't just tell me, like if I just said, what is the answer? It doesn't just tell students what the answer is, but it'll tell them like where to start and then ask things like if they keep asking it questions, it'll just keep kind of trying to guide them in the right direction. And this one just like, restated what the units were, what the problem was. And then you can check and say like, what should I put next? And then let's see what it says. It's doing this. It is in beta, but it is really useful. I also have found this to be extremely helpful for a student I have this year who's an English learner who's able to turn on the translate button at the top of the Positive STEM website and then ask the AI tutor questions. I'm going to minimize that. Oh, so then another thing you can do as a teacher that the students don't have, let me just go to a new tab here so I can, a new problem, is this show answers button. So if you're not sure how to start the problem, you can press show answers and it'll show you what the answer should be. So you can kind of like teach yourself by working backwards that way before you teach it to your students so that you can help them. Or if they're getting stuck, you can go look at your version of the problem, even though it'll be different numbers, you can look at the show answers to kind of figure out what they're supposed to be working with. And then there's also a restart button. So like if you had started it, but then you wanted to walk them through it, you could just press restart and then it'll regenerate a whole new set of values as well. So see, so it was 410 and 11 cents. Now it's 412 cents per kilowatt hour. So it will like keep refreshing it. And then another thing I wanted to show you about the teacher side is this student scores button. And this is, I think, like one of the best parts is figuring out how my students are doing. So if I look at my class, I can look at the completion scores for the unit. And then that's what I usually give them for their homework grades is I'll assign the whole unit due a certain day. And it's just based on the completion scores. So maybe like 20 points for unit 11, where there's all these different problems to do. and they just have to get full completion. So they could have guessed, they could have gotten things wrong, but as long as they got it right eventually, they get that credit. But then for knowing if they're getting it, I look at the accuracy scores. And so then that will break it down by student for their skill and class, like, and the class as a whole along that top one. So when I was looking at this earlier, I saw that these half-life problems had a really low overall accuracy. So that was a little trickier for them. But then I can click on that individual skill, and then I can also click on individual students' problems and see like what was so hard about this. So this was about radioactive decay. And then for some reason, they all had a hard time seeing like if it had gone from 8 curies to 4 curies, so if it had gone in half, that it had been the given half-life is how much time that had passed. So for whatever reason, a lot of them had a hard time with that. I would assume like for something like this, like, okay, they probably learned as they went along how to correct that problem. And so sometimes I'll also say when they had a hard time, like, oh, it looks like you figured it out, but do you want to try again? Do you want me to reset your scores? And so they'll be like, yeah, actually, can you reset it? So let's say she already got her points for this one. So I'm just going to reset this one. And then it's back to 0 and back to like a fresh slate. So you can let them try again. And then they get all new values again, all new randomized problems. And then for some types of problems, it actually like shuffles the questions over again. So they get to keep trying and keep practicing kind of as much as needed. And I think those are the main things I wanted to show you guys. Maybe checking. Yeah. And then let me also show you just on the dashboard again, that Unit 17 review that I mentioned is the cumulative review. So this one has problems. It starts with environmental legislation. So that one's just like an easy vocab matching kind of thing. But then there's for each unit, there's like a vocab and concept section and then a math section. So just to give you an example, if you haven't looked at these, in the review, it's kind of like everything swished together. I also have this formulas that are kind of all of the APES formulas for the year in one place. There's really not that many that you have to just have memorized. A lot of it is like if you have practiced the quantitative skills all year, it doesn't really feel like memorizing because you've learned to basically work with the units. But if they just want to have it all in one place and practice it, then this is a place they can look. So that should be.
Chelsea.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We had a question in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Denise wanted to know if your videos are available on Positive STEM yet, where she could find them.
Okay, so the ones that are available, let me show you. So I have all the videos for units, like the APES 1 through 5. So those are by unit. If you, for instance, look at Unit 2, and then if there's anything that's a calculation or conversion problem, if you go on the lessons and questions, then there's a video on the like right-hand side that will yeah, you can link through. So was there another question? Sorry.
Dump it in the tub and then bring it back so that it's there when you can dump that. Go dump it in the tub and then go.
Oh.
Sandy, did you have a question for the group?
That might have been a mistake. Okay. So yes, so it's my goal is to get more videos done for you guys. But I do have calculation videos within those first 5 units. And then if you didn't see it before, there's a code AP20. Actually, let me double check. I think it's AP 2025. I don't know if anyone used it yet. That was to upgrade your account to premium so you can use the whole course for the rest of the year, not just the review. So the first 5 units and then the the semester review and the final review are always free. But then you can upgrade it to have all of them free. Were there any other questions that I could help with for this part? Okay. So, and then also if you have more questions after you played with it, like please reach out. And then also if you'd ever like to have like a little one-on-one Zoom to kind of figure some things out, I'm really happy to do that too. I just also had, before I share Emily's stuff, I just had a couple notes about the digital exam. So I know that a lot of us are nervous about this. My one thing I was saying to myself lately is that I think my kids are less nervous. My students are less nervous than I am, because a lot of them have already taken a test on Blue Book before. They've taken the SAT or the PSAT on Blue Book, and they're not really stressing about it. So given that, we still want to do our best. I think paper and digital practice are both really good as long as the kids are doing the work. So for me, I trust that the kids are doing the work when I'm watching them do their positive STEM practice. And I'll, like, for some of those longer problems, encourage them to practice writing it out on paper as they go through the problem. But for FRQs, I still want them to write on paper because I just have a lot of academic integrity issues sometimes when we introduce the devices. Even with the lockdown browser, I've had a couple issues this year. So it's up to you, I think, what you do, as long as you can like know that your kids are doing the work. I would say also for typing the math, it's probably good practice to write on scratch paper and then type into the boxes afterwards. So you can just like see it, that it's organized, maybe with your little train tracks or multiplication fractions on your paper, but then type that up onto the page. And then I just copy and pasted this from College Board's published list here of the ways that students are allowed to write answers. And that's not like the full exhaustive list. There's a lot, oops, I'll go back. A lot of possible ways to write answers. For instance, they're allowed to, instead of the times 10 to the 12th, they're allowed to use engineering notation, which looks like e to the like E12, so 4.1 E12, which is also how the answers are typed in positive STEM, because it's like a computer program, so it reads it like a computer would. So just a couple of things, I guess, about Blue Book. And then Emily, who can't be here today, her Google folder is linked with her APES review materials, and she's been sharing these materials for years in the Facebook group. She's a really experienced and amazing teacher. She wanted us to share this and her contact info as well if you have more questions. This is one of the review games that she has, is Scattergories. If you've played this in real life, she made a APES version of like different lists of words. And I played this with my students last year on one of our last days before the exam, and we all loved it. It was like a great way to review and boost confidence and just laugh and feel, I don't know, feel silly and smart at the same time. But how it works is you roll a dice, and if you have the one from the real Categories game, that's what is in the picture. But you could also like do a random letter generator on your phone. So you get a random letter and then a timer, and everyone has to write as many things as they can think of, like filling up the list with that letter. So for instance, things you can recycle: soda can, energy, renewable energy sources, solar, primary producers, seaweed. And so you're all writing down your own little things quietly. And then when the timer goes off, you compare your answers. And if anyone has the same answers, you have to all cross it off. So then it like really encourages you to think of something that other people wouldn't put. So maybe like things containing nitrogen, Sarah, who's like someone in the class, and then everyone laughs, and then you have to kind of argue why that's a good answer after all. So it can be kind of silly, but also a great way to review content. She also has a bunch of word puzzles that are like varying levels of difficulty. So this one is called You Know the Odds. So she gives you all the odd letters that are the answers. But the even letters, you have to fill in the blank. So the first one, when a shared common resource is depleted, and then you can see most of the words there. So tragedy of the commons, but it kind of helps students maybe that are having a hard time with recall to just like get some confidence of of being like, oh yeah, okay, I know all these words. Which maybe you want, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you want them to be a little bit scared sometimes, but I think it could be useful. Then there's like harder questions in there too. And then the other thing that's really helpful in this folder is she has scoring sheets for all the 3 practice exams, all the multiple choice practice exams in AP Classroom. So then students can use their AP Classroom test, and it has this sheet, but then other sheets behind it for each of the 3 tests, and they figure out like how many, like what percent they got right for each of the sections, and kind of identify their weaker areas to be able to self-study a little bit more on those weaker areas. And contact info for all of us is on this last page. And I guess that's it. I'll leave this up here and